Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D here. Hey, if you're an NAI basketball fan, and obviously you are if you're listening to this show, I want to tell you some of the things Cascade Hoops Talk offers. Obviously, you can get the podcast anywhere podcasts are available, Cascade Hoops Talk. Go to Twitter at Cascade Hoop Talk. Also, go to Facebook at Cascade Hoops Talk. You can also get all the interviews on YouTube at Cascade Hoops Talk. And the YouTube platform, please subscribe. Having that platform and the shows over there gives us some more flexibility down the road if there's other things we'd like to do. Also, and this is very important, go to CascadeHoopsTalk.com, CascadeHoopsTalk.com. And once the season starts, every morning you can open that up and you can get all the game stories and NAI basketball news from the night before. It's tabbed by conference and top 25. So if you're just interested in, say, your conference and the top 25, click those tabs, see who won, what the stories were, and that's available to you every day. Also, there's a place on the web page where you can sign up for the newsletter, and you don't have to sign in. It comes directly to your email. So here at Cascade Hoops Talk, we're here to be your NAI men's basketball news source. And please go to our Twitter and let me know if there's anything else you would like to see or something different or something you'd like to see improved. I love hearing from you. Thanks. I hope you enjoy today's show. Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. Join us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Also our YouTube channel. And every day go to CascadeHoopsTalk.com and get all your NAI men's basketball news. Hey, today we have Coach Kory Alford. He enters his first season as the head coach of the Huntington University men's basketball program. Prior to joining the Foresters, Alford recently served as the director of player development for the University of Nevada-Reno, the Nevada Wolfpack. Prior to that role, he held various roles for the basketball team in his alma mater, UCLA. At University of Nevada, Coach Alford focused on scouting. He was the key coordinator of the recruiting strategy that led to nearly a dozen commitments in 1 year. Alford also spent 4 seasons on staff at UCLA as the video analytics coordinator after playing 2 seasons for the Bruins and 2 seasons at New Mexico. As a player, Alford helped 4 teams reach the NC2A tournament, which included the 2014 and 2015 squads, advancing to the Sweet 16. He played his high school ball at La Cueva High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he was part of 2 state championship teams. Coach Alford obviously comes from a proud basketball family. He's the son and grandson of Indiana basketball legends Steve and Sam Alford. His grandfather, Sam, was the longtime head coach at Newcastle and Martinsville, and his father, Steve, obviously an IU star, and has gone on to coach well over 500 NC2A Division I head coaching victories. Welcome, Coach Alford. I really appreciate you being on the show, and welcome to the NAI.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here, and super excited to be a part of the NAI.
So obviously, Coach, you grew up in a basketball family, great Indiana tradition in your family. You know, just talk about what it was like to grow up in that family.
Yeah, I think obviously I've been very blessed to have grown up in the family that I did, and my grandpa and my dad. They created a legacy in the game of basketball, but more specifically in the state of Indiana. And I think Indiana basketball is something that's very unique. It's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't seen it firsthand. And for me personally, I was born in Indiana, lived here until I was about 3 years old, but had always come back each summer for my family's camp that we always ran down in southern Indiana. But I don't think I fully understood kind of the impact that those two had made on the state until I got here this spring. Just with any lunch, dinner, interaction that I have around the state with so many different coaches and people, and the lives that those two had touched at some point in their careers, and everybody's got a story about one of them. And so it is special. And it's been fun for me. I've grown up in a college basketball locker room. That's been kind of my whole life. I was a player, and I have been coaching now for 6 or 7 years. But even growing up as a kid, that was kind of that's where I grew up. I was always in there with the guys, hanging out. Got to see kind of the ups and downs of a season, kind of learn about valuing winning and learning from losses. But it really has. It's been kind of the way that I've grown up. It's been what I've known and what my family's known. The conversations at the dinner table have always revolved around basketball, and it's just kind of been our passion. And for me to now have that opportunity to be a head coach is special, and I think I'm well prepared because of that family upbringing. And I know it's a very unique situation and experiences that I've gotten to go through.
So, Coach, I understand that your grandpa in particular was super thrilled to have you in Indiana coaching.
Yeah, he's been pulling for me to do that for a long time. He's been retired for a few years now, and they would come out to LA or they'd come out to Reno for about a month at a time, and he's still got that coaching itch. So I think he takes losses harder than maybe any of us do, but he always knew that this was my dream, and yeah. I knew I wanted to be a small school head coach, and so the state of Indiana was one that I did target, and I had interviewed for jobs in the past. And so he was always, he's got so many connections around the state. And so he's always telling me about what he's hearing. And he's always telling me about these kids in Indiana that he's seeing. And before I would listen to him, but I didn't have that much interest in the local high school kids that he was watching or the score updates that he was sending me. And now that I'm here, all of that insight becomes a lot more useful. So we definitely keep in touch a ton. He's a basketball fanatic. He loves Indiana high school hoops. And so it's been great for us to be closer to them now. We're inside 2 hours, so got to see them a little bit more this summer. Obviously, it's been hard with COVID, but they were at my first game on Tuesday, and I think they'll be back this week. So it's definitely exciting to be close to my grandma and grandpa, and they're very, very excited for me to be here in the state.
Coach, you had a successful high school career. You played basketball out in New Mexico. You won 2 state championships. Talk about the decision. You went on to play D1 ball. Talk about the decision to play D1, and then, what was that like playing on the big stage like that?
Yeah, I think coming out of high school, I was on some very successful teams. I got to play with my brother, which was a lot of fun. And did learn the value of winning and kind of what it takes to be a part of a championship team. Played for a great coach and Coach Castillo, and we had a really good program. And coming out of high school, I had some smaller offers, just things that I could look at kind of on the East Coast, low-level D1 stuff. To be honest, I was probably about NAIA Crossroads League level player. That would have been where I would have been able to play the most and would have had a very good playing career. But at that time, I did know I wanted to get into coaching. And so my plan at the time was to go to New Mexico to learn from my dad. I knew that was my best opportunity to learn kind of from him and what it would take to become a head coach one day. I had seen it firsthand growing up, but had never really been a part of his program directly as a player or as a coach. And so my goal was to go to New Mexico and hopefully one day work into the rotation. I redshirted my first year. And was trying to put some weight on, get stronger. And then after my sophomore year, he took the job at UCLA, and I ultimately went out there with him. And then I transitioned even more into kind of my coaching mindset because I knew I wasn't ever going to work into the rotation out there at UCLA, being at that higher level. And so I really tried to take on more of a leadership role as a walk-on there, trying just to be a leader in the locker room, be the best scout team member I could. And ultimately kind of became like a volunteer video assistant. And so that helped prepare me for when I became video coordinator in the years following. But that was a great experience for me. Got to be kind of at the highest level of college basketball, be able to play and coach with many guys who went on to the NBA, kind of see what it took, what type of work they put in kind of to get to that level and achieve their goal. So being at UCLA was definitely a blessing, and being able to work with my dad for 4 or 5 years and play under him for 4 was definitely special.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that you had that foresight to say, okay, I'm going to play here so that not only can I get the experience, but I know I want to coach and I can learn right from my dad firsthand. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You talked about wanting to be a coach. When did you decide that you wanted to go into that family business?
Yeah, I think growing up, I would always say that to people, and like my grandma, everybody would just try to talk me out of it. And they're like, "What are you thinking? Like, you know, you don't want to go into this, right? But I never really understood that, because to me it was that's the most fun profession you can be in. It's incredibly stressful. There's a lot of pressure, but at the end of the day, it's ultimately very rewarding profession. You're in charge of 12 to 15 young men, and they're at a pivotal point in their life where a lot of things change from the time they're a freshman to a senior. And I think it's our job as coaches to help prepare them for the real world, no matter what they go into. And I think that there's nothing more special than being in a locker room, a bunch of guys coming together, trying to achieve the same goal. And it's hard to replicate the emotions of winning and losing in any other profession. It's the highest highs and lowest lows, and it's real emotion. And a lot of hard work goes into it. And you can't always control the result, but you can control the process and kind of control your mindset throughout. And I've just always found that to be really fun. Every single year is different. They bring different challenges, different successes, different failures. But I've always thought that athletics is the ultimate teaching tool, and especially for young men that ultimately get to the collegiate level. I just don't think it gets any better for life lessons and kind of just learning and growing together, learning how to play a role, learning how to handle adversity, those type of things. I just think that's what college basketball does. And it's just always been a passion of mine. And so I never really listened to anybody that told me not to get into coaching, and just kind of always hung around and stuck with it. And it's been extremely fun for me. And obviously my dad set me up for great success and was able to provide a great platform for me to kind of be at the highest level, starting out my career. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And it provided me great experience that I can use today. But I also put in a lot of hard work to be prepared for this position. I wanted to be a head coach at a young age. And that's kind of part of why I pursued the small school route, was because I felt like I could get that opportunity. And that plan worked out. Now it's just about implementing all the things that I've prepared for. And obviously, you can't prepare for anything or everything, but being a head coach is a position that is very unique. I don't think being an assistant or any of the staff positions can really fully get you ready for it. I think you just really get thrown into the fire, and you have to be ready to adapt and learn, and just know that you don't know everything right away, and you're never really going to. But every single team is different. Every player you coach is different. Every player you recruit is different. And it's just going to be a learning experience, but you have to be genuine, and also you have to be confident in your own abilities, and just know that you're doing the best you can for those guys in the locker room. And I think I'm ready for that opportunity, and I'm glad to be here at Huntington.
So speaking of Huntington, talk about when you got that call. How did you know that was the place?
Yeah, so I was very familiar with the Crossroads League in general. I had interviewed at Bethel the year before, and just kind of gone through the process there. But I had always kind of envisioned myself at a Division III level, just because that's where my dad was, and that's what I was comfortable with. And so when I learned about the Crossroads League and watched a lot of it on film last season, it's unbelievably high-level basketball. And I tell people to this day, it's a lot more skilled than even low-level D1s. There are really, really good players in this league, and it's great coaches, high-level basketball every single night. And it's fun to watch for fans. Mm-hmm. It's fun to play in for players. And so when I learned about that league and NAIA in general, that really caught my eye, and the way that you get scholarships. For me, it's very comfortable. It's no different than what I'm used to at the Division I level. We have a few less resources, a few less scholarships, right. But other than that, it is very, very similar. And so I can run the exact same program that I'm used to here at Huntington. But as far as Huntington, we were sitting in Reno waiting to find out if we were going to make the NIT or not. And ultimately, everything got canceled. So COVID, all of that. And so it was a weird time, but I found out that the Huntington job had opened through a couple people that were around the program. Coach Platt had decided to retire. And so went through the process, put my application in, had some people call around, found out that there was mutual interest, and then went through the interview process. And all of that was fairly stressful, but I felt prepared based on the last few years of some of the jobs that I had interviewed for. And I never actually came out here to campus. So the whole thing was done through Zoom. It was difficult, but I was just trying to kind of show as much emotion and excitement about the job as possible, because it's just hard through Zoom, I think,
Yeah.
to kind of get that personal connection. And so I knew it was a perfect fit for me. The location especially was very enticing, being close to Fort Wayne, but still having that small community feel that rallies around Huntington basketball. But Fort Wayne's been great. Huntington's been great. We've really, really enjoyed the area. And so it's been a seamless move for us, despite it being in the middle of a pandemic and kind of different. But we did buy a house without seeing it, and we took a job without seeing it. So my wife definitely took a big leap of faith with me on this one, but we couldn't be happier, and we're blessed to have this opportunity.
You know, Coach Alford, you talked about being familiar with the Crossroads. I'm curious, you know, how before you started investigating Huntington, you know, what did you know about the Crossroads? And then now that you've been here for a bit, you know, what has surprised you, or what have you learned that you didn't really know?
Yeah, I mean, I always knew just a little bit of the history. Always familiar with the Lightfoot family. Known about them and kind of their legacy, being in the same area that my dad coached at back in Manchester. And then obviously knew about Indiana Wesleyan and kind of how successful that they have been. I remember seeing a few years ago when the state of Indiana had all 4 teams in the NAIA Final Four. Mm-hmm. So that sort of thing. But just hadn't really followed it that closely until last year. And so I watched quite a few games last year on the live stream. So knew about a lot of the teams. And I guess what I didn't know was exactly how deep that the league was. Yeah. Because it really is. It's 10 teams deep, and it's just high-level basketball no matter who you're playing. But yeah, nothing's really surprised me. I think part of what's been different to see is just kind of being in recruiting battles and seeing how Northern Indiana just gets oversaturated with so many of our league schools, right? Just targeting the same kids. And I think it's important to try to find ways to separate yourself and kind of find different areas that you can bring value, and find ways that your school separates itself, because we all very similar at the end of the day, but there are also very key differences that you can kind of look at and try to see what makes Huntington the place to be for you.
So, Coach, what do you see as Huntington's greatest challenge to become a top tier Crossroads team, and what strengths does Huntington have that people don't realize?
Yeah, I think starting with the strengths, our campus is beautiful. We have great faculty here. Everybody is incredibly kind. When we have recruits on campus and their families, I think they leave blown away with how nice everything is and how genuinely welcoming everyone on campus is. But our school is investing a lot into our program and into our kind of facilities here on campus. We're building a brand new student union building that'll be done here in a month. And after that, we're going on to a facility project that'll renovate our gym, kind of add a practice facility, kind of redo a lot of our weight equipment and that sort of thing. So one, for that to be taking place in the midst of a pandemic kind of shows the standing that our school is in, and that we're looking forward, that we are growth mindset and just kind of taking on the challenge. But I think at the end of the day, our location is really good. We're close to Fort Wayne, like I talked about. We are close to Indianapolis. It's not too far away. But everyone in Huntington really rallies around the Foresters. I have so many people in the community right now that are upset that they cannot be at our games. Yeah. We can only have parents, faculty, and staff. And so I've been turning down bribes all over town. People who are just trying to find their way. They tried to adopt. We have an Australian player. I had somebody try to adopt him the other day to say that he was their parent. So we've got a great energy around town. They love Forester basketball, just like any small community here in the state does. They love basketball. They live and breathe it. And once winter comes around, they know that that's what they want to do. But yeah, it's a special place. And I think a lot of recruits, when they come here, they see that.
So, Coach, I want to take a minute and talk about Kory Alford brand of basketball. So talk about the team that, what I'm trying to get to is your basketball philosophy. So talk about the team you want to put on the court. Talk about your offensive philosophy. You know, do you run? Do you go deep in the clock? And talk about defensively what you try to do, you know, zone or tough man-to-man. Just tell us about Kory Alford basketball. What can fans expect?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, and a lot of what we've been drilling home these first kind of few weeks of practice, I just want guys that play hard and compete. And I think that's the biggest thing. All the X's and O's, they're great, all the philosophies, but there's a bunch of different answers. But I'm a big believer that if your guys don't compete and play hard on every single play, it's really, really hard to win. And so that's a big thing we've been working on, and the guys have bought in. We've gotten in great shape, and they're learning to compete. We won a game last week by 1 point. We had to make plays down the stretch, and I think that type of stuff is the best learning experience you can have. But as far as philosophy, defensively, definitely more of a man-to-man guy. I like keeping it as simple and consistent throughout the year as possible. I don't like, say we get 3 or 4 weeks into the season and we're not guarding very well. I don't like changing it up. I think defense takes time. It's something that you just have to drill every single day. And for us, we actually, again, pointing back to last week's game, we won that game on the defensive end. Our defensive rating was an 86. We got a bunch of stops down the stretch late. We took 2 charges in the last 3 minutes. And to be honest, that's the thing I'm most proud of, because coming in, that was our weakness last year. And if you would have asked me a month ago that you would win a game in the 60s because of your defense, I don't know if I would have believed that that was possible. And so to see that happen, I'm proud of our guys, and I'm extremely happy with how far they've come on that end of the floor. But as far as offense, definitely an analytics guy. So I'm always talking about shot selection, definitely wanting to play fast. But at the same time, if they take that away, we got to make sure we run our half-court offense, which wasn't very pretty last week. But lots of threes, lots of paint shots. I'm not a big fan of the mid-range. We took 1 last week, and it was a hook shot from about 7 feet. So I told him that one was cool with me.
Right.
But it's definitely going to be around 50% threes. That's kind of our target goal for three-point rate. But we've got a team that can really shoot it. We can play 5 out, stretch the floor. But I'm big on motion-based offense, and then we run a lot of sets into it.
Oh, okay.
And so I think you can use sets kind of to get some of your best players in position to score and put pressure on the defense. But then after that, I think it's the most important part is what you flow into, and just continuing to play basketball and make reads, because that's the stuff that's hard to scout. And so we spent a lot of time so far just teaching our guys how to play basketball, how to make reads, how to understand where the defense is going, and kind of how to play off of each other. What happens if teams switch everything, and just who you screen, where you go. And so that stuff takes time, but that's kind of what we've been drilling home so far, and the guys have been great. They've been putting in a ton of work. We've been in the gym now. We had practice 35 this morning, so we were definitely ready to play somebody else, and I'm glad we could get that first win out of the way, and now we can kind of move on and focus on the season.
You know, Coach, you went out and you have a good recruiting class, but you also returned, I believe, 4 players that played 30 minutes or more last year. So you have a lot of experience. You only have 1 senior on the roster. You know, I want to talk about this year's team. You know, you got, Caleb Middlesworth out of Marion last year, 19 points, 5 rebounds. He's only a junior, big body, 6'8". You know, he looks like he's going to be a key for you this year.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I really did. I inherited it's almost a perfect team for me to take over with. We do have 1 senior, which is great. Most of these guys will be back next year, but they are young. And so I think they're still moldable, and we're able to kind of build on some early successes. And we know that we've got a lot of time left. And so we are bringing in a good recruiting class next year, and we're excited about that. But these young guys, I think this year will be great experience for them, for trying to build what we're trying to build. And you're right, Caleb is going to be a huge part of that. And I think Caleb is a perfect example of what we're talking about with our team. His biggest weakness was his defense, and I think he'd be the first one to tell you that. But we challenged him early, and I think his buy-in has been what led to our team kind of taking that next step and taking it so seriously on the defensive end, because over these past 2 weeks, you have seen massive growth from him on the defensive end, his effort, his communication. He's just really taken on a leadership role just by doing that. And I think our team has kind of followed his lead, because he is such a talented player. But he's going to be a key for us. He's extremely hard to guard, can really, really shoot it, and has great size. And so we've got good guards around him. We're pretty long. We're actually going to start. We got a freshman, Ben Humriches, who he's 6'8" guard. And then we got Hank Pulver, who's also about 6'8". So those three will start alongside with Peyton West and Zach Goodline, who is a transfer from Oakland. And so we're excited about our team. I think we've got some good depth, a couple young guys that are still trying to figure it out, and we're going to have them. They'll be able to kind of learn through their mistakes. They're going to be able to play through it, because I think it's important that freshmen get game experience and are able to kind of be out there and just learn from real life experiences, because college game is so much different than high school. It's a different speed, different athleticism, and so it takes some time, but we're excited so far. It's been a great month and a half. We haven't had a quarantine in a long time, so knock on wood, but we're gonna keep this thing going as long as we can.
I just want to emphasize your youth. You mentioned Pulver and Ben Humriches. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yep.
Humriches out of Tipton. He's a freshman. Is he a true freshman?
Yep.
And then Pulver.
He is a true freshman.
Pulver. He played close to 30 minutes a game last year as a freshman. Both 6'8". One's a freshman, one's a sophomore. I mean, the future really and then Goodline is going to be a great player. And he's a sophomore, right?
Yep, he's a sophomore. So all three of those guys, they're very exciting for our future. I mean, Ben, I think he had 15, hit 3 threes in his first collegiate game, which is incredible. But him and Hank are just both so versatile. They can guard multiple positions. They have great length, good instincts, and they both can handle the ball and shoot it. But yeah, as a freshman and sophomore, with that size and versatility, definitely something we're very excited about.
Coach, typically, especially in a tough conference like yours, with a younger team, you're concerned about, that first time or even second time through the conference can be brutal, right? Until you really get familiar with the layout, the fans, and how it goes. But in this case, these underclassmen, a good share of them, have played a lot of minutes already in the Crossroads. What do you see as your biggest challenge with this young team?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, we have a tough non-conference schedule as well. And I like that because it will help prepare us for Crossroads, so it won't be as much of a surprise. But I think the biggest challenge will just be handling adversity, whether it's losing a couple in a row. We have injuries, just things like that, where we can just continue to have a growth mindset, look forward, kind of embrace those things, and keep our head up, focus on the process, be able to just keep building on what we're doing. I think that's the hardest thing for young teams, because I think they can lose their confidence pretty easily. And so I'm very happy we won our first game, because I think it's something we can build on. But I think it's going to take some good leadership from our upperclassmen and the guys who have played a little bit, to just keep them focused on one game at a time and keep building on what we're doing. And it's a long season. College basketball has got a ton of ups and downs, and you face a lot of things you're not prepared for, you're not thinking about. And it's just about the teams that come together and stay tight-knit through it all that I think come out better in the end of the season than when they started.
Coach, the Crossroads League has a great fraternity of coaches. How has your reception into the Crossroads League been?
Yeah, everybody's been incredible. It's been great throughout the summer. We were actually allowed to recruit, so I got to spend some time with a lot of guys in the gym, got to interact with them, and they've been incredibly welcoming. It seems like a great fraternity of guys that they respect each other. Obviously, they go to battle every year, and nobody really has too much fun through it all. But I think it's great for everybody to get beat up like that. There's just such a mutual respect for everybody. And for me, being able to watch them all on film, I already have a great respect for how they run their teams, and I'm already worried about quite a few of them. But yeah, they've all been really good, and it's been an honor to join this league, and I'm excited to get started.
Well, Coach Alford, I want to say welcome to the NAI. I know there's a buzz around Huntington, a buzz around the Crossroads with you coming and coaching there. I think it was a great thing for Huntington, a great thing for the Crossroads League, and really look forward to how your young team does this well. I wish you best of luck.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're very excited for the future, and I'm honored to be here and excited to be a part of the NAI, and appreciate all the work you do. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you very much, Kory. Hey, thanks again for being on the show.
Absolutely. Anytime you want.